I'm Celeste NG, and I am the author of Our Missing Hearts. Our Missing Hearts is about a 12-year-old boy named Bird who lives in a time of deep fear. There's a lot of anti-China sentiment, and the authorities can take away the children of anyone that they believe is acting un-American, which is often people of East Asian descent or anybody who speaks on their behalf. Bird's mother is Chinese American and has left the family some years before, but at the beginning of the book, Bird gets a mysterious letter from her, and he's drawn into a quest to try to find her, understand why she left the family, and how to keep going. I started writing this book right after I finished my second novel, Little Fires Everywhere, and at the time I thought it was going to be a fairly conventional, fairly realistic mother-son story. And this was in October of 2016, so fairly soon thereafter, a number of things changed politically in the US. There was the rise of the far right, the bringing to the surface of a lot of social issues, and they kind of worked their way into the book and kind of shaped it into this sort of alternate reality world that Bird and his mother inhabit. From start to finish, the book took me about 6 years. I wasn't working on it continuously. In fact, I paused work on it periodically because I wasn't sure that I wanted to write it. I wasn't sure that I knew how to write it. And I was working on another novel on and off, but I keep coming back to this one. It just kept calling to me. And it was around the start of the pandemic, around April of 2020, when it felt like we were really living in a dystopia, that I finally felt like, oh, I think I know what this book is about, and I think that I need to go back and finish it. And so that's when I started sort of writing on it more concertedly, and it became the book that it is today. I never thought that I would write a book that wasn't set in a totally realistic setting. I always think of myself as a realistic writer, and I don't usually write about events that are happening now. I feel like I need some distance, some perspective in order to understand the context of what's happening. But with this book, especially with the increase in anti-Asian hate crimes that were happening in the US and really around the world, it clicked a number of things into place for me, and it felt like it was something that I wanted and needed to address in the story. And so that was a big stretch for me. The book does feel like it could be realistic now. Margaret Atwood sort of famously said about The Handmaid's Tale that if she was going to write a fictional garden, she wanted all the toads in the garden to be real. And I tried to sort of take that as my guiding principle as well. So nothing that's in the novel is totally without precedent. It's all got roots somewhere in history, whether in the United States or elsewhere. And frankly, a lot of it is still happening now. And in the time since I finished writing the book and when the book is going to come out, a number of things have become even more real. Libraries have been under attack in the US for what kind of books they have, for example. And so I hope that it won't be our future, but there are definitely resonances with what's happening today. It sounds selfish to say, but I think I wrote this book for myself first and foremost because I was wrestling with a lot of questions about how to keep going in a time when it felt like everything that I cared about in the world was falling apart, and how do I parent a child at a time when it's difficult for me to muster up hope for the future. But beyond that, I hope that it speaks to other people who are wrestling with those same questions, parents or caregivers who are trying to figure out how to prepare children for a world that is going to be unfriendly in many different ways. And to people who care a lot about the big global problems that we face, but aren't really sure what one person can do. I hope that it's going to speak to people who, like me, are wrestling with those things in their lives. My wonderful editor, Deborah Zundela Cruz, said we need to have a talk, we need to get on a call, and we got on a video call, and she let me know the amazing news. And I think that I might have been stunned speechless for like half a minute, which for me is a long time. I'm really incredibly honored. This book is a little bit different from my first two novels, and it did feel like a stretch for me to write it. It doesn't take place in a strictly realistic world, and I had to do some imagining about what that world might be like. But at the same time, I realized that I was interested in the same themes and the same questions that run through my first two novels. Questions about what parents can teach to their children, and how well children can ever understand their parents. And then larger questions too about what the role of art is in the world and whether art can actually make